Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you here to our July meeting of the Tobacco Settlement Agreement Fund Oversight Committee. And before we call roll, I'd like to ask Representative King if she could lead us in a prayer, please.
Please join me in prayer. Dear God, we come before you today still with heavy hearts at the loss of two of our General Assembly family members. Please continue to be with Senator Buford's family and Representative Carney's family. And we just ask that you give them peace that they just can't even explain. I know that you can do that, and we ask you to do that today for them. Please be with this panel as we consider the best course of business for our fellow Kentuckians, and we just praise you and thank you for everything. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise and join Chairman Emery as we say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Hornback, Senator Parrott, Senator Webb, Senator Westerfield.
Here from Crofton.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Brown.
Here.
Representative King.
Yes, in the room.
Representative Pratt. Representative Reed.
In the room.
Representative Roberts.
Present remotely.
Thank you, Representative. Are you in your district?
In district, yes.
Okay, thank you. And Senator Embry.
here in the room.
And Representative Dossett.
Present in the room. Now we'll move on to approval of the minutes. May I get a motion on our June minutes, please?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion from Senator Westerfield and a second from Representative Reed. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Motions are passed. Minutes are passed. Now we will move on to our first report from Brian Lacefield, our Executive Director of Kentucky Office of Ag Policy, and Bill McCloskey, please.
Thank you, Chairman Dossett. This is Brian Lacefield, Executive Director for the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy, and it's a pleasure to be with you all this Friday morning. Representative King, thank you for the prayer today. That was my first thing. Wanted to extend my condolences and continued thoughts and prayers with your families of your colleagues that you lost this month with Senator Buford and Representative Carney. Was saddened to hear that, and we will continue prayers. Got two guests joining us from our team today that I'd like to introduce. First is our second intern. Last month we had one intern. This time we have got Haley Nelson, and Haley, stand up there in the back. Haley's a junior at the University of Kentucky. She's studying agriculture economics and is a native of Franklin County. So she's at home today doing this and is joined us. She was not present at the last meeting as she was working with the FFA State Convention. And then also, we had an intern from the Office of Ag Policy in a previous year, but it was during the pandemic and didn't have in-person meetings. Now he is our senior project manager, but wanted him to have the full intern experience. So we brought him today. Martin Williams, please stand up. Again, Martin has joined our team and initially in our program position and has moved over to projects and doing a great job there, traveling the state, keeping a calendar with bubbled in counties for where he's toured. So we'll bring him back again when he's bubbled in all 120, Chairman, and he is a Nelson County native. I know we have a full agenda today, and we've got a lot of projects to go over, so I want to keep my remarks brief, but update you all on our joint meeting that we had last week in Bowling Green between both our Ag Finance Corporation Board of Directors and the Ag Development Board. This was a 2-day planning session, chance to get together, which normally we do at least once a year, but this time we added on another day to spend some time for discussion at both looking backwards and looking forward to where we could look at where we're going. We had a great series of panels and speakers the morning of. We started everything out with a legislative update to where we had members of the General Assembly in agriculture leadership positions with Representative Dossett, both Chairman Hornback and Chairman Heath, and Senator Givens joining us for a legislative discussion at where we started with House Bill 611 and where we are today. And I felt that was a very informative thing for, again, a lot of our board members and a lot of our staff don't have the tenure and seniority here as my deputy director does with Bill that goes back to day one. So it was a great opportunity to hear that. Following that up, I was able to moderate a panel looking at the historic investment, taking us back to the beginning, and for some of the folks that were instrumental in standing up the Ag Development Office and for work and getting to that point. We had Dr. Scott Smith, who was the Dean of Kentucky UK Agriculture Department at that time, Senator Robin Webb, who was hoping would be here and interject some of her input and takeaway, and then Jeff Hall, who was very instrumental in the Ag Project 2000, and then Sharon Burton with the Farmer's Pride rounded out the panel, and we had a great discussion there. And next up, we had Dr. Will Snell, who provided an economic impact and looking at what we have been able to do with these investment dollars over the last 20 years. And then we have one board member that has been there since the beginning. One staff member with Bill McCloskey, one board member with Wayne Hunt, and we had history with Hunt. And Wayne talked to us back from the early days with the beginning at 611 to where we are today. Following the session in the morning, we were able to spend time in a roundtable discussion facilitated by Alita Botts with K-Card and all of our board members, to where we started, laid the groundwork for what we're looking at going forward, and that continued for 3 hours, and then breaking with everybody of a challenge with some homework to continue to provide feedback. And we're going to have a survey going out to our stakeholders that will be sent from the commissioner to solicit feedback from all of our participants, our partners, and again, anyone that we're commodity groups that we're looking at as stakeholders. And then we'll follow this up with a second joint meeting in the fall looking at October. So that was a great. The second day we had our normal board meetings, and always a good experience to let the Ag Development Board walk through an Ag Finance Board meeting and vice versa. So it was very well attended. Participation was good, and I believe we planted the seeds for continued discussion going forward as we look at the 20 years in. Now we're looking for the next 20 and beyond. And with that, Chairman, I will now let my deputy run through some of our projects that we funded in the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Give you an update at the June 18 Ag Development Board meeting, where the Ag Development Board took action on programs and projects and approved $4.7 million in funds. So we'll start on page 2, program. So you can see there's 10 counties were approved for the CAPE program for $1.5 million. And there's a notation for Knott County, which this was state funds. If you recall, I've periodically given you an update where the Ag Development Board committed $484,000 at the end of 2019 that was available in 20 and 21 for counties that received less than $30,000. In the case of Knott County and Pike County, they have not received any county allocation because they didn't have any tobacco history. So they're using their program or their funds, their state allocation for to administer the CAPE program. Next, you'll see the deceased farm animal removal, 3 counties for $35,000. Under a shared use equipment program, 2 counties, Metcalfe County was approved for 2 shared use. The first one being no-till drill and then a hay wrapper. And again, this equipment is available for the community to rent out through, in this case, the Conservation District. And then Nicholas County chose to use their county money to cost share on a lime spreader. Again, it can be made available to farmers in the county. Then you've got the youth program. And moving on to page 3, gives you the total for the youth. So we've got 7 counties that invest in their county money into the youth program. And so for a total county money, $1.7 million. Moving on to page 4, we have amendments to the program. So you can see Wayne County was approved for an additional $100,000 to bring their total CAPE program to $225,000 and $600. Grant County was approved for $215,000, bringing that to $395,000 for their CAPE program, which is administered by the Grant County Cattlemen's Association. Gallatin County Farm Bureau, additional $25,000 to bring it to a total of $175,000. And then moving on to page 5, you've got Washington County Cattlemen's, the Next Gen program. The Next Gen program mirrors the CAPE program, but it targets beginning farmers aged 18 to 40. So several counties can have that option to utilize their county money, again, targeting beginning farmers. So they added additional $23,000 to bring that to a total of $49,000 available. And then they also amended their CAPE program, you can see, to bring that to a total of $179,200. And then they also amended their youth program, adding additional $9,000, bringing that to $29,350. So the youth program is a cost share program eligible for the youth from starting at 9 years old, and as long as they're enrolled in school, they are middle school or high school, they are eligible to apply for the program administered by an entity in the county. And then on page 6, we've got the last amendment is Mercer County Conservation District. And made a change to their program as well to bring that up to $213,783. Next, on page 7, giving an update on the on-farm energy incentive program. So a farmer that is making an investment in equipment or technology is eligible for state funds up to $10,150. The $150 will compensate them to pay for the energy audit. To be eligible, you have to have an energy audit or an energy assessment by a third party, and we're usually utilizing University of Kentucky, one of their engineers that evaluates the program, gives us feedback to document that the project that they'll be working on will result in energy savings with a payback less than 25 years. So you can see we've got a diversified group here: 1 dairy project, 7 poultry, 2 horticulture, 1 equine, Senator Webb, and then livestock, 2 grain, and 1 agritourism. And they vary in what exactly the investment in. It can be lights, it can be heaters or insulation for poultry, and then we've got some solar panels here where they're going to invest in a solar panel to offset the electricity used in their operation. Moving on to page River Meat Company, page 8. We're getting into the meat processing investment program. We've given you some updates on this program, where the board has awarded over $6 million to 30 processors to address the demand for local processors. So this one is a USDA processor in Harrison County, and they were approved. They revised their budget up to $896,000 budget, and they were eligible for a maximum of $250,000 in state funds. So this business has been in existence for close to 70 years. They've got some new ownership there in Cynthiana. It's purchased the business, and they've got, if you can see in the narrative here, several phases. They plan to, over time, make improvements and be able to provide service. And the importance of this being a USDA versus a custom operation, USDA allows Representative King for you can process your animals there and then sell to the public, where in a custom operation you can only utilize it for your own use. So definitely good to see these type of businesses continuing to exist, and even new ownership are going to expand the services. That's on page 8. All right, going to page 9, we've got Continental Refining Company. So this is a business that's been in existence, or the operation in Pulaski County, for several years as a refining operation. So they've got some new ownership that operated as a refining operation for several years, but have decided to close it down and expand it into a soybean extruder operation, where this would provide a local market for soybean producers. I think the board was interested in this because it creates additional demand for soybean in that area. When your primary purchaser of soybeans in Kentucky is Owensboro Grain, which is 160 miles from this location, so a new business or a new purchaser of soybeans, I think the board felt like rising tides lift all boats, so this creates another market for this for the commodity of soybeans, which we've seen an increase in soybean production post-tobacco era in this area. So you can see the total project cost is a $10 million project, and they requested about half of that from the Ag Development Board. The Ag Development Board, looking at it as evaluating the risk of the business, elected to offer or encourage them to pursue county money and match county money with state money up to $500,000. In other words, any county money they get committed to the project up to $250,000 would be matched by state funds for $250,000 with a maximum of $500,000. So to date, they have 10 counties committed money to this project for $140,000. So that would leverage another $140,000 in state money for $280,000 as a grant to help support this project and create a market for soybean production. The applicant is also made a request to our lending authority, as you know, Kentucky Agriculture Finance Corporation, for $500,000, which has been approved by the Ag Finance Board of Directors. So we're looking at a total of $280,000 as a grant and $500,000 a loan towards this project. Any questions on? All right, move on to page 10, which is Clark County Fiscal Court. So they requested $35,000 to help support a composting facility there in Clark County. The county council approved $10,000. The Ag Development Board approved that amount. The interesting part of this project is it's an effort by the fiscal court to provide a solution to dead animals by building a composting facility there in Clark County. So they have received a $140,000 grant from the Energy Environmental Cabinet to support this project. So their staff at the fiscal court has done a lot of work to educate themselves on how they can run this facility and be able to provide this as an alternative to dead animal removal. So this could be a solution to an issue we have across the Commonwealth. A lot of the dead animal services that are provided by fiscal courts the fiscal court actually provide the service, or they're paying for a service provider to pick it up. And those dead animals, in a lot of cases, are either going to a landfill or going to a rendering company. But we're aware that some counties their budget may be as much as $100,000 to remove dead animals. So this could be a long-term solution in addressing the dead animal issue. Next, going on to page 11, Senator Webb, we've got an equine project for you here. This is the Kentucky Thoroughbred Training Center. So they interested in the history of the Kentucky Thoroughbred Training Center, which is currently owned by Keeneland, but it was a project started in the 70s, privately owned up into 2000. I think Churchill Downs had purchased it, and then they recently sold it to Keeneland. So they're looking to improve the stalls. They're currently have over 1,000 stalls. They want to improve about half of them, and so they made a request to the Ag Development Board for close to $3 million of a $6 million project. The Ag Development Board obviously wants to support this project. So again, they made an offer on the county money matched by state approach up to $1 million, and if they're short, the county money matched by state money would be eligible as a loan. So to date, they presented this proposal to several county councils, and the commitment to date is $267,000 in county money, which would be matched by state money. So that gets them to $534,000 as grant, and then they can make a difference up, which would be $466,000 as a low interest loan, working with their local lender. Next, we're on to page 12, Bergen Independent Schools, county money request, which is approved by the Ag Development Board for a greenhouse project. Total commitment is $12,296. All right, next on page 13, we have Kentucky Fresh Harvest, LLC, which requested $100,000 as part of our on-farm water management program. This program is designed to work with businesses that have a proposal to better utilize our water resources. So this project has been under construction for several years. It's north of a $25 million project with 10 acres under greenhouse producing tomatoes at this point. The request was requesting funds to install a lining in their water retention basin. So it's a closed water proposal where all the water that comes off the 10 acres of roof is then captured and then utilized back through their system. And the reason that the Ag Development Board will support this project is that they will work with specifically the Kentucky Horticulture Council on an outreach plan to share this information with our farmers that may be looking at greenhouse production or greenhouse expansion, and how maybe this capturing rainwater in a closed loop situation, which is better utilization of water, obviously, and then the nutrients that you provide in part of the process. Next, we're on to page 14 is American Farmland Trust. So this is a request for $550,000. It's a collaborative effort with the University of Kentucky to look at developing a variety of rye that will grow and thrive here in Kentucky. Currently, the distilleries, which we've all seen a boom in the distillery and bourbon business, they source their corn and wheat and other commodities they use in Kentucky and surrounding states, but rye is primarily sourced out of northern America or even Canada. So this proposal, working with American Farmland Trust, is to work with University of Kentucky developing a variety that the farmers can grow here in Kentucky and provide the distillery industry, creating another opportunity for our farmers. So these funds will be available over a 2-year period for 21 and 22 harvest, and we'll pay the farmers directly. That they're going to take the risk to grow the rye. So they're going to be guaranteed a price in the event that they have the crop doesn't produce the expected yields or even have a total crop failure, as part of a way to create a variety that'll work here in Kentucky for the distillery industry. And then we had on page 15, we had a project requested funds under our small-scale water program, didn't meet the eligibility requirements, so the project was no funded. And Representative Dawson, that completes my report.
Thank you, Bill, very much. And Brian, you mentioned the meeting last week there with the Ag Development Board, and I want to personally thank Commissioner Quarles and yourself for inviting me to be there and speak on that panel as we discussed issues there concerning the what the Ag Development Board does, how this funding works, cycles its way through, and how important it is for us as members of this committee to remind all of our other colleagues here within the House and the Senate of exactly how this fund was created, and ensure that it continues moving the way it has over in the future. So I do want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of that forum.
Well, we appreciate your participation along with your colleagues. It was very, very informative, and I believe a very positive meeting. And Senator Webb, we discussed this earlier. I didn't know if there's anything either of you want to add to the discussion of that on the Hennepin.
Oh, Myron knows me so well, the chairman. And it was good. The chairman, Chairman Hornback, Dossett, and he, presented that update along with Senator Gibbons, and that was informative even to me. So I enjoyed that, and certainly being with both groups of individuals that make these decisions that we entrust this money to, and we've showed a great deal of confidence in, and will continue to. I've got to say the quality of the board. I've got friends on there, but I made some new friends, and I want to commend everybody on the quality of the people you've got working. And for those committee members, you need to get to know these folks because they're the experts, really leaders in the industry. But I don't know. I contributed a little bit of the history because I'm the last woman standing when it comes to the drafting of House Bill 611. Former Representative McKee was there, and I'd spoken to Senator Pendleton and Senator Thomas, and about to refresh my memory. That was my first real job being elected was House Bill 611, and it's something I hold near and dear to me. I don't know how much I contributed, but other than tell the history and say, read the statute that created it. That's the lawyer in me. And so I want to remind everybody to do that because it's important. But I was really impressed. I stayed for almost the whole thing, Mr. Chairman, because I felt like we needed to hear and listen the concerns and the innovative ideas, and so they wouldn't be new to us when you all present. And it was I enjoyed it, being around like-minded individuals and talking about agriculture and policy and markets and eating ice cream at Cheney's and all that. But anyway, but we had a great time, and the innovation of that dairy facility. I'd encourage everybody to go to Cheney's and see that automatic milker. That's pretty revolutionary in my opinion. And then I've got to say also, while I'm bragging here on my district, Brian and Commissioner Quarles and the staff came up to Greenup County. I got to spend the whole week with them, and we had the largest farm-to-table event in Kentucky, and we had how many? 600
pre-sold tickets.
Pre-sold tickets to support 4-H and FFA there. And of course, my dad's family from Greenup County, so I'm all a little partial. But it was the Imels and others put on Imel's greenhouse facility, which was expanded with our program. So it was just a testament to House Bill 611 and the commitment and your all's visibility there. I want to appreciate that. I mean, we've got a commissioner and a director that, get out there with it and get out in the community, no stranger to our area. So I want to brag on you all too. And Bill, you took me down memory lane there in the 70s with the Thoroughbred Center, which I'm always glad to see equine projects, don't get me wrong. But when Joe Johnson had it, and my dad and Joe were friends, and I went there as a teenager when he acquired it, and I've just been following its up and down history. So I think it's important to Fayette County and the thoroughbred industry and having the presence of the horse that close to the city. So I appreciate that. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, and thank you for being there and investing the time with the board members. The feedback I got was very positive, and it was great seeing you in Greenup County. Senator Webb said she hadn't even been home yet by the time she landed there for the event. And as you mentioned, the Imel family has participated in our water on-farm water use program, and then we zipped to the other end of the state. The commissioner and I were together in Fulton County yesterday for the Waves event, another great event with a lot of collaboration, and got a chance to literally see Kentucky from east to west in this tour. Any other questions,
Yes,
Chairman?
Representative King, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a two-part question about amendments, if I may.
Sure.
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you very much. The amendment section on page 5, it's just ironically all 4 amendments regard my district. I am encouraged that the 3 projects from Washington County needed expansion. Does that mean additional people are applying and projects are qualifying? Is this people stepping out and taking advantage of these opportunities?
Yes, ma'am. The initial approval amount, and then when they receive all the applications, they realize they've got farmers on the waiting list, and so when the new money comes in, or the money came in for 2021, then they have the opportunity to request those funds and amend the current CAPE application, which they've got 12 months to spend the money in the legal agreement. So yeah, they can come back and add more money to the program, and again provide funds for farmers that might be on the waiting list, because it's a scoring system, as you well know, and so they keep on continuing down the waiting list.
Well, very good. I know everyone on this committee really gets out and beats the drum and tries to encourage folks to at least apply, see if their project at home will apply. So I'm encouraged that, we see that kind of interest in that. And then on the next page, on 6, the Mercer County project. Now, I know this information is dated mid-June. Have you received the signature that you're waiting on since this document was printed?
We should have, because this would have been approved in June, and then we would have the legal document to represent this board approval would have been mailed the next week.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure somebody on my end is aware they need to submit a signature if they haven't already done so. So
Again, the document, the legal document to amend this and to reflect this action by the Ag Development Board would go to the Mercer County Conservation District. They sign it, send it back, and then Secretary Lacefield would sign it, and then the money would be made available.
And I feel very confident that I have signed this one, but I don't want to say with absolute fact. We'll double check when we get back to the office, but I do remember this one, and I believe we have received it back. And the add-on to Bill's point on the additional funds, one of the things I'm trying to go to as many county council meetings as possible, and one of the things that's discussion is obviously the CAPE is a very, very popular program, but also in a 12-month window, the county councils don't know what other projects may be coming in front of them. Some of these you've seen that that Bill was talking about. To get state fundings required a certain amount of county fundings, so they may want to save a little bit back and then to roll out their program, see the interest, knowing that they always can come back. That's one thing we always stress to them, is that this county money is always designated for this county. You're not in danger of losing anything, and so it's prudent to possibly save a little back to see what other projects may come in, and then with all this demand can come back, amend the program, and put rest of the funds in. And one other aside, Chairman, if you allow me, again, going to the county council meetings is a great chance to visit with producers literally across the state and find out things that are going on in their district. But one of the things I always do is, as we're seeing a lot of first-term county council members, is talk a little bit about the history of these funds and the foresight that our General Assembly had with House Bill 611 to designate these, and how unique this is to Kentucky, and so always trying to again educate on what we've come from our history. But I had one of your former members of the General Assembly serving on a county council meeting in Graves County, had Representative Fred Nestler that was sitting there, so it was a chance I could actually brag with somebody now still in service, serving for the producers there in Graves County doing it. But it was a fun evening and able to do that.
good. Well, I'm encouraged by the increased interest. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Chair Emery?
Yes, 3 of my 4 counties had projects approved this time. Now, I summarize these meetings on my Facebook account after each meeting, so my constituents know what's going on. I sometimes have constituents from Butler County asking me why they had nothing approved, and of course I explained to them the council has to make application. Nothing's approved without an application, so that they can be studied and given consideration. Make sure everything's all right. And I know we have approved projects from Butler County. Brian and Bill, do you ever contact county councils that do not seem to be participating to the degree other counties are in projects to encourage them to look for projects that could be funded in their areas to help them out? That's my question.
Okay, well, thank you, Senator Chairman. That's a great question, and that is one. Yes, we do. That's another reason that we try to attend. One of us or a member of our team every county council meeting we have, and then do continued outreach when we're in the area. If I can get a date of a county council meeting on the calendar, we'll build travel across the state to where we are meeting and engaging with our partners, whether it's the facilitators with our partners with the UK Extension Service or the administrators of the programs to what we're doing. And an example, we had a meeting in my one of my original home counties. I claim 4, Ohio County being one of them too, of mine, but in Caldwell County. And to work around that county council meeting, we worked in 18 other stops and I think 7 different counties to try to do this outreach with what we do. Also, we're seeing that funds have not been dispersed for a county. We definitely are making inquiries to make sure that there's a strategic plan like what we saw in Chairman Doss's district with the ribbon cutting they had at the Christian County Arena. That was a strategic plan they had for multiple years to accumulate some funds to put cost share into I think a $2 million project there that had about $400,000 of ag development funds in it. So to answer your question, yes, and continue to ask your encouragement to get folks to bring us good projects to present before our board.
Thank you very much. I assume that was the case, but I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
We continuously monitor the county balances and contact the extension agents on a regular basis. And one example, Brian, is Clay County. We've been down there several times. They had a change in their extension agent, so we're there to help fill the void there in the situation where they don't have a ag and natural resource agent who is usually the lead with the county council, so we can step in and help facilitate those meetings. And you'll see an application from Clay County here at the next meeting where they're going to commit $300,000 of their county funds to administer a CAPE program.
Senator Webb.
And just to follow up and kind of reiterate some of the things that the board was talking about was, true diversification and those kind of things, and outreach, and the history that I was concerned about is just what Representative Embry said. I've had some counties better than others, and somewhat cyclic with the turnover of the board. But Bill knows, he's heard me for years, but you got to have an application first, and that's the message. And the board, the age of the farmer, average farmer is a concern. If we're going to build a bench and we've got to concentrate on our young farmers, 4-H, FFA, and all those things that go with it. And those are the topics of conversation that I heard that I was encouraged by. And that's what we're going to have to survive, especially animal agriculture, and the ability of a young farmer to, everybody's got student loans now. So you've got to be able to invest and let that property pass and buy equipment, and it's expensive. Representative King can tell you, the cattle, it's always something. But those were the kind of topics that we heard, and I think with Brian and Bill doing what they're doing now, that we're going to see those concerns addressed in more innovative ways, and with true diversification and good use of the money, continued good use of the money. But those were the topics that gave me some comfort level that the board's interested in, and that's what we want to see. Thank you.
Well, I'll just follow up, Senator Embry. We have had a call with interest in a farmer's market in Butler County, so we explained the program. We do have a farmer's market program where a county is eligible up to $250,000 as state funds. So in those kind of situations, we like to be on the front end and certainly make ourselves available down there at a meeting as they develop the plan going forward. My understanding would be close proximity to the extension office there in Butler County.
That's good information. Thank you.
Brian, I'm glad you brought up the arena there in Christian County and all the groups that work together to create that facility. And with the money that came through from the Ag Development Board that helped on that, and knowing the impact that will have, it was, when we look at the equine training facility, it also needs to be remembered how much recreational equine horse how that impacts the state as well. I know Senator Webb is involved in showing. I have a granddaughter who, Lord help me, she has started horseback riding lessons, and I've said over the last year it's going to be the most expensive hobby I've ever gotten her involved in.
Keep the checkbook out, Mr. Chairman.
But to know not only that, but that facility will be used for cattle shows. It will be used across the board right there, and the impact that it will have on agriculture, and for our young people to actually come in there and to see their visions, as you mentioned, where we're going to be 20 years from now, because a lot of those ideas are going to be coming from those young minds that we're molding right now, and we want to give them every opportunity. But thank you for bringing up about the arena that was constructed there in Christian County.
Thank you, Chairman. A lot of exciting projects we've got going on in Kentucky. And any other questions you have for us?
No, I believe that will do it. Thank you, Bill, both so very much.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share with you all.
Thank you. Next, we'll have a presentation from the Farm to Food Banks, and ask Katrina Thompson and Sarah Vaughan to come to the table and have you introduce yourselves, please, for the record.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us here. I'm Katrina Thompson, the Executive Director. I'm Katrina Thompson. Thank you. I'm the Executive Director of Feeding Kentucky, and if you can't tell by my accent, I'm from Kentucky. I love Kentucky, so I'm so excited to be in this position. I just want to talk to you a little bit today about the stance of hunger in Kentucky. And we are going to look at what we're doing in Kentucky about that, tell you about our Farms to Food Banks program, and about our Kentucky Kids Eat program. You wouldn't think that hunger would be an issue in our society today, but it certainly is. In many of our counties, about 1 in 6 people are affected by food insecurity and don't know where their next meal is coming from. We have about 1 in 5 children that are affected, and in some counties that's as many as 1 in 3 children. Some of our counties with the highest estimated food insecurity rates are Harlan, Leslie, Magoffin, Breathitt, Clay, Bell, and Letcher. Many of the counties we see in the top needs for everything. Kentucky actually is number 1 in the nation for food insecurity among older Americans. People 50 to 59 are affected the most. We have about 33% who are barely above the 185% of poverty. We have 13% who are between 130 and 180% of poverty. And then we have 54% who are actually below the SNAP and the 130% of poverty in Kentucky. During the pandemic, we saw folks that had never been in the situation of being food insecure before. Many of our families live one paycheck away from being in a situation where they're food insecure. Many people have to make a decision between medication, the cost of their medication, or the cost of food. we saw about at least a 30% average increase in the demand during the pandemic. It's getting a little bit better, but the problem is that Kentucky had a huge problem with food insecurity prior to the pandemic. That just made it worse. We're doing some great things, Feeding Kentucky. We have 7 food banks across the state. We have about 800 food pantries, and we cover all 120 counties. We serve about 50,000 Kentuckians every week. We serve about 79 million meals to Kentuckians. Just this week, on Wednesday, the commissioner is really getting across the state because we were with him on Wednesday. We've been doing a hunger tour, a listening tour in our counties. So far, we've been in Hazard in eastern Kentucky. We were in Glasgow, and then just Wednesday, we were in Owensboro. And the most of the needs that we're hearing are certainly brick and mortar infrastructure. We hear a lot of need for cold storage and continued flexibility in school and federal nutrition programs, like the congregate food waiver. We have an excellent program, and it's my pleasure to turn it over, and I'll let her introduce herself. Sarah Vaughan, she's the Director of Programs for Feeding Kentucky, and she's going to talk about farms to food banks. We also have agricultural products from farmers needing a market. Our Farms to Food Banks serves our Kentuckians. It's a wonderful program. We have double dollars, and I'll let Sarah cover that as well, but that's where folks can take their EBT cards and go to certain farmers markets, and they get double their dollars so that they actually have can actually have some fresh produce. And if anybody's been to the grocery store, you can see how much that stuff costs, and it's hard to do. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah and let her talk to you about the program.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Vaughan. I'm the Programs Director for Feeding Kentucky, as Katrina mentioned. And I believe the Double Dollars program that she mentioned is something that I'm sure Martin will be talking more about from Community Farm Alliance whenever he gets up here, because that's they know a lot more about that program than we do. But yeah, most of you are pretty familiar with Farms to Food Banks already, so I'll kind of go briefly through what it is, and then we can talk more about the impact of it. So Farms to Food Banks takes agricultural products from farmers needing a market and takes those to Kentuckians in need. And recently the language that we use has changed from fresh produce to agricultural products. And the reason that we made that subtle change in the language is because we've started also taking meat and cheese and eggs and protein and dairy items that are usually pretty expensive in stores for our food insecure clients to purchase. And we're able to, through grant funding, get some of that available for them. But the 3 main goals of our program is to increase access to fresh produce for people and other agricultural products for people who cannot afford to buy it. And we also we would like to support farmers who do not have a market for their extra produce. So let's say they had a contract with Kroger or something like that, and they got it to Kroger and everything was good, but then the eggplant was a little bit too large, or it just it didn't meet their standards for grocery store quality, and it was turned away. And so then they can bring it to us, and we'll take anything as long as it's still fresh and edible. And as a general rule, I just tell farmers which I don't have to tell them, they know, but if you wouldn't eat it yourself or feed it to your family, don't bring it in. And then lastly, the main goal, of course, is to reduce the waste, because I've had farmers tell me, I disked over a whole field of cabbage because I didn't know where to take it, so I didn't want to spend the time and labor picking it with nowhere to bring it. So I just chopped it down and let it become nutrition for the soil. But last year we distributed over 2.7 million pounds of produce across the state, and we worked with we distributed it to 118 of the 120 counties. And the reason, there were 2 counties that didn't receive product, and it's hard to get food into some of these counties because the food pantries are only open for a couple days a week and limited hours, and some of them have refused produce when it's been offered to them just for the simple fact that they don't have the capacity to get it out before it goes bad. But we've done it before, getting it to all 120 counties, and we plan to do that again this year. So I think we're making good strides in that direction. And that equated to 4.5 million meals supplemented, and nearly 500 agencies received produce. So 476 agencies. And that produce came from 371 farmers in the state of Kentucky who resided in 63 different counties. And 12 farmers received more than $10,000 during the course of last year. But on average, farmers got about $2,013. And the farmer that received the most money got $122,000. So I guess depending on the size of your operation, this could be very important. I've had farmers tell me that, that having our program as a safety net was a lifesaver for them, and they didn't know what they would have done without having that option. And this doesn't include the 2020 numbers, so it would be about 24 million pounds rescued now since 2011. But we've worked with over 1,000 farmers in Kentucky, and we've paid over $4.2 million to go back into the local economy in Kentucky. And like I mentioned, it's good for the economy because the money that is raised from the grant funding or from our funders goes straight back into the communities where they can use it to support themselves. And here's a list of some of our supporters. There's more supporters on here than we have listed, but we really are appreciative to the Kentucky General Assembly and the Department of Agriculture and the Ag Development Fund, Farm Credit Mid-America, Live to Life Foundation. This year we received a large grant from the national organization Feeding America, and also there's a the Gimbel Foundation has, last year they gave us $25,000, but due to COVID we got $250,000 this year. So our budget for buying produce this year is the largest that it has ever been, and we're very, very grateful. And as I was telling a lot of people, my job ebbs and flows, and right now it's flowing with the spigot turned all the way up. So I've probably missed a lot of farmer phone calls just being here. But it's, right now we're moving a lot of produce, a lot of sweet corn, a lot of cabbage, tomatoes, and the protein distribution has slowed down a little bit just for the sole fact that I've been too busy with the produce to try to find people that have excess meat, because we hadn't really tried to build out those relationships in the past because we didn't have funding to pay for it. But now that we do, I'm going to start trying to build a relationship with some of the meat and dairy producers in the state, and eggs. So.
And how much have we already produced this year?
Well, just this month, we've distributed over 400,000 pounds of produce. So it's been
busy.
It's been pretty busy. And that's not even, the number is higher because I still have invoices that I'm waiting to get back from the food banks. So
very proud of that program. Another program we're very proud of is the Kentucky Kids Eat. We really we don't want any kid hungry. You know, if one adult or one child goes to bed at night hungry, that's one too many. For our Kentucky Kids Eat program, we gave up 68 grants to schools and communities. $1.1 million was distributed during 2020. We are looking at alternate meal models, trainings, toolkits, technical assistance for schools, and I will tell you the schools really stepped up, and they, instead of picking up kids or dropping off kids, they really became mobile meals and really got in there and took those meals out to those children in need. So if anybody would like any more information, you can reach us at Feeding Kentucky, feedingky.org, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have for us.
I want to thank you both so much for the presentation. I know as you discuss the farm to food banks, I know locally there in Christian County, I have several farmers who are produce growers who have used this right here, and it has helped save them in situations. And of course, as you mentioned right now, I know we are having a very good growing season going, which I know that means more produce is coming through, and it's always so good to know that it's not going to waste, that it's actually being able to be used, that certain crops that might not be able to make it into a store, as you mentioned, because it may not meet a certain quality that the stores are wanting to for presentation purposes, but it is very important. Do we have questions? Senator Webb.
Y'all have been a real lifesaver during the pandemic, I know, and in some of the counties I practice law down there. I see the need, and certainly I was curious as to, you mentioned bricks and mortar, what kind of existing partnerships, or there's a lot of vacant buildings, and there's a lot of people that might be, I'm no tax lawyer, but there might be a program or incentives, or we could maybe create incentives to provide that brick and mortar from existing empty buildings or entities that need an additional supplemental income that would partner with you. Do we have any existing partnerships or anything like that now to fill that brick and mortar need, or what can we look at that's cost effective in the future? Because at one time infusion of cash that you have now, it's not going to always be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, exactly. Well, I know that Fayette County, that God's Pantry is working on that very thing, and they just acquired a building and will be expanding. A lot of what we hear, it can be as simple as they don't have shelving, things sit on the floor. They have a food pantry that's in a closet of a church, and they could really even use, some storage buildings, even some things to that. But it really is. And the other thing is having folks to staff those. This is really, I will tell you, I just came to this organization in January, and this is a bare bones organization where every single dime really goes into the community. I'm just so proud to be here. I'm so proud to work for an organization like that. But yes, we are always exploring those things. And the other thing, like I said, we hear a lot of is they don't have the freezer or the refrigeration capability to take that, because if you take, for example, you can't take meat unless you have somewhere cool or a freezer to store it, and even produce, if it sits out, it's gonna expire much more rapidly. So those are exactly the kinds of things that they need. We certainly need more pantries across the state. Many of our pantries are run simply by volunteers, and those volunteers may only do it twice a month or something like that. So,
or a regional. I'm just thinking out loud. Like a regional concept. Even refrigerated storage units could be cost effective, or something like that for cooperative situation. Especially, some counties better than others, but I'm just thinking about innovative partnerships that are sustainable.
Yes.
and that people might benefit from, whether it's a corporation or an individual. So those are just my thoughts. And I'm committed to the animal protein side of things from the federal and state level. We're very we advocate for that on a historical and daily basis. And I'm encouraged to hear your conversation about the protein side. So, and I'm hopeful with an uptick in the availability of processing that perhaps some of those markets are going to expand and producers will have a little more reliability in what they're doing, which will enable more along the protein side. So I would monitor the development of our processing investments and then try to pursue those hopefully fertile grounds. But
Yes.
thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
thank
Chairman.
you.
Any more questions? I want to thank you both for your presentation. It's greatly appreciated. And next we'll have Martin Richards with the Kentucky Double Dollars. Please come forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you'll both introduce yourselves for the record, please, I greatly appreciate it. You can go right ahead.
Yes, Martin Richards, Executive Director, Community Farm Alliance. I often add I'm a recovering farmer myself. I have with me today one of our relatively new staff person, Kimmy Ishmael. She is our policy coordinator. And as legislators, you're likely to see more of her face in the coming time. I also want to extend my condolences to the legislative family on the passing of Representative Carney and Senator Buford. In this conversation about House Bill 611, in 2000 session, I was up here a lot as a CFA member and a farmer. I remember working with Senator Buford. And I think Senator Webb is gone. She was in the House at that time. And Representative Pete Worthington was pretty active in the House side of it and pretty instrumental in developing the county allotments, tobacco-based stuff. So maybe I'm dating myself here. But anyway, thank you for this. So we're here to report on Kentucky Ag Development invests in two of our programs, the Farmers Market Support Program and the Kentucky Double Dollars Program. I am also going to just briefly talk about a new program we have, the Fresh RX for Moms. Let's go on. So again, a lot like Feeding Kentucky, these goals of these programs are threefold. That is to... We're not seeing it. I'm sorry. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Well, that's exactly why I'm not doing it, because we would be even worse case. There we go. All right. So threefold goals here, again, based on our, organizational mission, is to increase the sales of income for Kentucky farmers and to increase access to local healthy food for low-income folks and to leverage these federal food nutrition program funds, of which Kentucky gets considerable. SNAP is the single biggest one of those dollars, and we realized, almost a dozen years ago how much money is coming in and the opportunity for get those SNAP funds utilized at Kentucky farmers markets and to purchase Kentucky farm products. Next. So again, these three programs, all of these are done in collaboration with multiple other organizations. Again, the Farmers Market Support Program, we are closely with Department of Agriculture on that, UK Center for Crop Diversification. The Kentucky Double Dollars Program is the incentive program for this. And then the Fresh RX, again, is new. We piloted it for 2 years at Community Farmers Market, and then last year, middle of a pandemic, we attempted to expand that. So it is a prescription program for expectant mothers on Medicaid who often lack the ability to access a nutritional program, which I think we all know is critical at that time in expectancy. Next, please. So a little bit, farmers market support program. Last year was a, needless to say, an unusual year. And part of what we did in collaboration with the Department of Agriculture did this huge pivot. A lot of farmers markets just did not open last year, and the ones who decided to go ahead and do open were facing how to deal with social distancing and keeping everybody safe as part of that. Effort. And of course, then we all saw that the grocery store shelves were empty, and that was particularly problematic with meat. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So we were able to secure private funding and gave out these emergency mini grants to farmers markets to help them mitigate the COVID ramifications to those markets. So anything from hand sanitizer to washing stations to signage to all this kind of stuff. And it really allowed them to operate. And for those markets who did last year, they saw record sales. And I think we've got a new respect in this state for what Kentucky farmers do, and that in times of need, you can turn to your neighbors for food. Next, please. I wanted to say, and with that support program, that is where ag development funding has been really important. We operate the market manager cost share that allows especially new markets and rural markets to have a market manager who is also not trying to sell their vegetables on the side too. And it's been really significant in growth of that market. So Kentucky Double Dollars, we are now entering our 6th year of this program, and you can see the growth of this program going from 6 markets in 2016 to 73 outlets this year. This year, those outlets are, not just farmers markets, but these community-based markets or CSAs, and then retail. We have slowly been expanding retail. Last year, we piloted one IGA location in Manchester, and this year is now expanded, working with the CW Food Group, who has a string of 7 or 11 stores. So we're now in 4 of those stores. So, these stores are like almost 50% of their clientele are utilizing SNAP. And this has made a difference while CW has really wanted to stock Kentucky-grown products and have to a little bit. But this program has really allowed them to ramp up. And Bluegrass Farm to Table and our staff have coordinated with these stores to make sure that there is supply and a variety of products in the stores so the customers can then utilize their SNAP benefits and get those doubled up. Next. So is, talking with y'all for a number of years now, Kentucky Double Dollars is actually 4 incentive programs under the Double Dollar umbrella. So we, with ag development funding, we're able to double up the WIC Farmers Market Program, the Senior Farmers Market Program. And then we utilize USDA funding to double up for SNAP fruits and vegetables. But we all recognize Kentucky is a cattle state, and just like you've heard, protein is hugely important. So with ag development funding, we're also doubling up folks who use their SNAP benefits to purchase Kentucky-produced meat, eggs, and dairy. And then you see these examples. Each one of these markets has a different kind of system that has to be utilized for the doubling program. Retail is not on here, but on their receipt, they get it to cashier. The bottom of their receipt, it shows their double dollars, and they bring it back next time, and they're able to cash those in at the retail level. That's one of the challenges for everyone. Every market outlet is the logistics of how to run this system. and the retail is both huge potential, but it's also challenging because for each retailer, we have to work with their point of sale system to make sure that their POS system can accommodate and track the double dollars. It is getting much better, and so one of the great benefits is we are working closely with the National Grocers Association. Their tech person, Ted Mason, is actually from Kentucky, so he knows. And Appalachia, for that matter, so he knows a thing about this. So it has been great, great to work with them. Next, please. So this is just shows the kind of growth over the last 4 years of the program. And again, the red line for each one of these incentive programs for last year shows remarkable, right? SNAP, fruits and vegetables, doubled sales last year, as did meat, eggs, and dairy, right? I mean, it was, I think, when the pandemic hit and we saw folks saw store shelves empty, especially in the meat departments, there was a bit of a panic. We all worked together. I'm really happy that, we had multiple meetings with Bill and Warren and GOAP at that time. So Ag Development was able to respond, with additional funding. We also were able to respond to that, and we saw this huge jump in the meat, eggs, and dairy purchase last year. And the great thing is that demand has increased this year. We only had about the same amount of funding that we did for all of last year for meat, eggs, and dairy. We have already blown through that. Mid-July, we ran out of the ag development funding for meat, eggs, and dairy. We can no longer do that. We also ran out of seniors this year at a couple markets. One of the reasons for that is Department of Agriculture, who runs the seniors program, got additional funding specifically for veterans. And so that's being offered at a few markets. But now seniors are back out this year. We were able, through private funding, to come up with some additional funding. But I just got an email the other day like, have you got any more money for seniors for this year? And I haven't replied with a no yet, but that's the answer I've got right now for that. The other part of the challenge, I think, is that for ag development funding, they consider this program as one of their big programs. So they've essentially cut our budget 5% each year, which has been challenging because as the program grows, we're facing those funding challenges. Can you go on to the next one, please? I'll talk a little bit how we're dealing with that. So these are just some of the numbers from 19 to 20 and showing the increase in all of this. I think it's really important that, we have such a high redemption rate. I think from the last slide, over the last 6 years, we're showing 94% redemption. The 6% that doesn't get redeemed, we're fortunate that we can roll that over, and Ag Development has been very generous in allowing us to, if there's any unspent ag development funds in one calendar year, to roll it over into the next. And that's been very helpful to mitigate that required 5% cut. Next one, please. So we don't have all the data analyzed from last year, again, because last year was an unusual year, but this is a very simplistic kind of like, here's the return on ag development fund investment just on double dollars. So again, in 2019, it was just under $60,000, but we were able to take that and through matches, through private philanthropy, increase that to $115,000. And then we work with UK's CETIC, Community Economic Development Initiative of Kentucky. So they do our data analysis and valuation for us, but they have determined that, and this is just for double dollars, that there's over a 4%, 4-to-1 return on investment. So it is, when you look at all that, it is a pretty good return on investment for that. Next one, please. So this is just a snapshot for this year's budget that Ag Development just approved back in March, I think. So we have $126,000 from Ag Development, of which $20,000 I think is rolled over. I'm looking at them. I'm sure Bill doesn't keep all those numbers in his head, nor do I. But because of COVID, we were able to, didn't use funds. We rolled over them this year to that. But those $126,000 are then again leveraged, the USDA money, leverage the match, leverage the private philanthropy. So, it's a $600 almost $72,000 program this year for all of this. And here's one of the impacts again. So the market manager cost share there, like line 2 or 3. It has been slowly reduced of Ag Development funding, and Ag Development has also put this parameter of only funding a farmer's market manager for 3 years, and after that, they won't fund that manager. And I think generally that's a pretty good idea in terms of sustainability. But there are still some markets, especially rural markets, that have a challenge of that. To overcome that, we've increased our private philanthropy. So you can see this year, private funders are essentially matching those Ag Development funds to keep these market managers in, like 66 or I'd say like over 30 markets for 2021. So briefly, again, the Fresh RX for moms, we piloted for 2 years, expanded it last year, which again, for a vulnerable population during the pandemic we didn't have the great turnout. But next one, please. So, but this year for 2021 is much more robust because it is now at 4 markets, not only Community and Bowling Green, but Lexington, right here in Franklin County, and then Perry County Farmers Markets all have this program. The other thing is that the USDA put out an application earlier this spring. We applied for it and got the money. So this program will expand to over the next couple of years to 7 other farmers markets. And that expansion also includes increasing the amount of weeks that moms can get this funding. I think in the long term, the big picture, we would like for moms to get good nutrition through the whole 9 months that they're expecting, and through the other 6 months, and when they're breastfeeding, hopefully, and then when the child first starts solid foods. I think by having that kind of aspiration, we see a couple things happening. One, we get kids off to a really good nutrition start in their life. I think the other part is it sets a culture within the family, because that whole thing trickles out to other members of the family. So if we get moms and the kids eating well, then kids ultimately will get dad to eat well. I can testify that in my own household. Next one, please. So I said, we're not doing this alone by any means. I mean, again, multiple funding sources that fund part or all of each one of these incentive programs for this. And we are not doing it alone, working with other organizations, at least through one of the partners for this. Next, please. So I want to talk a little bit about the future. So I mentioned that the funding opportunity that we were able to expand the Fresh RX programs in the next couple of years. We also applied to that same opportunity to expand Double Dollars. We did not get that. We did not get that grant. What does that mean? So Double Dollars is not going away. Under the current grant, we still have funding to get through another year. We are going to have to apply next year back to the USDA. We did not get this grant because we could not compete with the other states because of match. Our proposal to expand double dollars to more farmers markets and to more retailers, our proposal was $1.9 million. We did not have $1.9 million in match, which is what the federal requirement was. That is a big challenge for us. But, that challenge is not unique to CFA. Between CFA, Feeding Kentucky, Grow Appalachia, a lot of these food security and hunger programs in Kentucky run by nonprofits are either tapping or could tap these federal grant programs. And there's almost 4 of them that all require a match from 25% to 50% match. And so there's there's millions of federal dollars available to Kentucky to support food, increasing food security, better food, and our farmers. And until we can come up with that match, we're just leaving that money on the table. I think the good news is the wisdom of the legislative body 21 years ago in what the body did with the Master Tobacco Settlement Funds. And that directive, that prime directive is Kentucky is going to take these tobacco settlement funds and do 2 things. We're going to improve Kentuckians' health, and we're going to diversify agriculture. And I think it has been a good effort. And from what you've heard today and continuing to hear, diversification of agriculture is an ongoing thing. I would say that programs like Kentucky Double Dollars, like Farm to Food Banks, like what Grow Appalachia fits both of those bills, both of those parts of the prime directive. But to this day, it's only been agriculture that's been funding these kind of things, right? I was just on a call Wednesday with a group of cancer folks in Kentucky, American Cancer Association, folks at UK's Cancer Consortium. What they were asking me is they know that the survival rate for cancer is increased through better nutrition. They were asking me, Martin, is it possible for us to do a prescription program for cancer patients to get them access to better food? And I said, it is absolutely possible. We can take the model like Fresh RX and adapt it for cancer, right? We can adapt it for other these things. And I said, and the good news is there's federal dollars out there, right? Through GusNIP. The challenge is coming up with that match, that 50% match that is required for these programs. So, we talked more about that. I think that this idea that we are putting forth, and in fact, you have a 1-pager here, this idea of creating this healthy farm and food fund by setting aside a very small percentage of tobacco settlement funds, sort of like what the legislature's already done with water lines and those kind of things, setting aside these funds that organizations who are trying to meet the needs of hungry Kentuckians by providing them with Kentucky-grown products, that we all can tap these funds and use for leverage to bring down even more federal funds and support our farmers and our hungry family. I'll get off my soapbox there and see if y'all have any questions.
Thank you very much. Representative King, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we can refer back to the slide that has the beautiful baskets of beans on the left-hand side, it has double dollars at the top. My question is found in that information. Can you help me understand how come the women, infant, and children, I think it's the 3rd bullet point, they had the highest redemption rate for this amount of data, but they were the only program to decrease from 2019. Can you help me better understand that? And then with the chair's permission, I have a second question.
Yeah, so the WIC program, the WIC Farmers Market program, which is separate from the broader WIC program, and it provides vouchers to WIC participants to then go to the farmers market. So it is that the amount of the money that Kentucky gets, and it comes to the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. It is based upon redemption rate within the state. And then last year, again, we had a couple things happen. We had COVID. Women, infants, and children are a vulnerable population, and I think there was hesitancy about coming to farmers markets for that. And then both it and the seniors program, which usually roll out at the beginning of June each year, did not roll out until July last year. And also in the case of WIC, they reduced, or I'm not sure, they might have reduced the amount, but they changed the voucher system. So I think all these multiple factors reduced the amount of folks who were using that program last year. We saw kind of similar things with seniors, right? Again, seniors were a vulnerable population, were hesitant to be out, excuse me, and go to farmers markets. But seniors are also the ones that really like fresh produce, and they know what to do with it, right? That's the other kind of catch to that. Did that answer your question? Was that helpful?
Well, unless it's a typographical error, it says WIC has the highest redemption rate.
Yes, I think that is, right? It is a very high redemption rate. It is also the smallest of all of those programs, too.
Okay.
So,
may I go to my second question with your permission? Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then going back to your discussion about the $1.9 million match that you're requesting, help me better understand. Are you wanting that to come from tobacco settlement dollars or from general budget dollars?
No, not general budget dollars. I mean, I think, and let me be clear. So our current grant that we're operating on, we got a 4-year, $750,000 grant, and it required a 50% match. But we were able to kind of pull together a whole lot of stuff because the USDA allows in-kind stuff. It doesn't have to be cash, right? So it allows in-kind considerations. We're able to use like the farmers market manager cost share from ag development. We're able to utilize that as well as what the markets. So we were able to come up with $750,000 again over 4 years, right, to meet that match. But that's about the limit that we can do with this. So when it comes to like that $1.9 million, we would not need $1.9 million, and that was for over 3 years, right? We would not need $1.9 million in tobacco settlement funds. We would probably need, my guess is 50% of that, because I think we can still come up with in-kind matches and other stuff, right? Again, like, WellCare and Passport have been consistent private funders for us. Their challenge is, while WellCare has supported this program for 6 years, it's a year-by-year thing. Whereas the feds, they want to see, if you're applying for 3 years of funding, they want to see 3 years of commitment, right, for that. So again, no, I don't think for any of these federal grant programs that anyone would apply for, that it would need to tap the full 50% or 25% match from the tobacco settlement funds. There's a lot of other points that come into that. Did I make sense?
It does. After 10 years of service and drafting 3 budgets in the last 3 years, which has been unprecedented, but it's been my practice every time someone asks for a budget increase, I always say, okay, help me figure out who's going to have that money taken from them. So where do you suggest that money is deleted to make your request possible?
So I think again, as I said, up to this point, all these food access programs that utilize Kentucky products has been supported by the ag development side of stuff, right? Which ag development gets 50% of the master tobacco settlement funds. What we're suggesting is, because this is a health program, is let's also have the health sector side of this utilize some of their funds too. So it's not all on agriculture funding to support this program. And y'all are a heck of a lot smarter than I am about this stuff, But I mean, conceptually, I think just setting it aside, putting it in the fund there that's available, if it's not utilized, right, then it just rolls back, right? So, but knowing that it is there, that folks, in Kentucky can point to that when making these federal applications, say, yes, here is where the match could come from. And again, it would only be drawn down, as used, because these federal grant programs are reimbursement, right? So, as we draw down this $750,000 for double dollars, we have to also show that we have that match. So it's not a lump sum match, but it's held there to be drawn down. Is that helpful?
It is.
Okay.
Very helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Do any of our members attending virtually have any questions or comments? Senator Parrott, are you out there? What's that?
I am.
Okay, we do. We also wanted to check and see if we know on your attendance, so we're making sure that we know. And do you have any questions?
No, I'm particular about all these numbers. I think it's very positive that the steps they're taking, especially to hear that they didn't. They don't have to have all that money, and had great for their farmers markets and the things they're doing. I think it's very positive. So in my opinion, they've come a long way, and I'm thanking them for that. So.
Thank you, Senator, and your attendance has been counted right there. We did get you on roll call.
Thank you.
Once again, I want to thank you for your presentation. We will be looking as we move through the fall and start working toward the budget. We will take all this into full consideration. But like I said, I do want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
As we get ready to close our meeting today, I'd like to let the members know our next meeting will be scheduled on Wednesday, August the 18th at 10:30. And do I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
We are adjourned.